With every Yu-Gi-Oh series comes a new signature monster that gets used in nearly every episode after it's introduced, and inevitably gets support based around it in the real-life card game to go with its main character status. But as much as we focus on Dark Magician or Stardust Dragon or Utopia, we tend to overlook that nearly every notable character had a secondary ace. These monsters could have even been their aces based on how much they were used, but were just below that monster on the cover photo. So for this list, we want to cover the most noteworthy secondary signature monsters for all the main characters in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime. They could go either way in terms of relevance, where they were used so much you almost forgot that they weren't the default main monster, or they got such little screen time and support in real life that you tend to forget the big spots they were used in to get a high-ranking status. They may have even started off as the signature monster before a different monster dethroned them. And by main characters, we'll consider the secondary ace monsters for the protagonist, best friend, and main rival from each of the first 6 series. And with so many characters to look at, here's a bunch of characters to co-host the video with me. Corgian, the Toon Duelist.
I'm not Pegasus anymore, I play Orcus now.
Sam from the DungeonDiveBar podcast.
I'm glad to see you finally graduated from garbage to meta.
Professor Oats.
It's 3 a.m. Are your gardeners secure?
SyzygySolo.
Let's go.
And by popular demand, Judgment Meter. Now, let's crown the top 10 secondary signature monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 10, Obelisk the Tormentor with Kaiba. We've got a heavy hitter to start the list. Giving Kaiba an Egyptian god card was a great idea for advertising since he uses it anytime he gets a chance. Comparing him to his constituents, after Yugi got his god card Slifer, he didn't use it until the bracket of the tournament, and Merrick saved Ra for that part of the tournament too. They were used pretty sparingly throughout the arc, but as soon as Kaiba got Obelisk, he's playing that guy whenever he gets a whiff of a duel. He tests it right away against the robot, uses it against some random goons in the tournament, and then feasibly uses it against some duelists who actually have names. And let's not forget when he willed Obelisk back into existence in the Dark Side of Dimensions movie to show his love for the big blue guy. However, we were reminded why Obelisk was only number 2 in the Kaiba vs. Ishizu duel, where his only way to avoid Ishizu's blast held by a tribute trap card was sacrificing a god to summon the real ace, Blue Eyes White Dragon. No one's ever dethroning that dragon in Kaiba's heart. Obelisk doesn't even have a jet based around him, though he does have a dorm. Even in Obelisk's original last duel with Kaiba in the Yugi vs. Kaiba rematch during Battle City, it didn't come down to Obelisk vs. Slifer, it was down to a Blue Eyes White Dragon fusion versus a Dark Magician fusion, reminding us why these are the true ace monsters. Though when you think about it, he only had Obelisk during Battle City. He technically had a few other cards that could also be considered secondary aces that he used just as much as Obelisk both during Battle City and in filler arcs. Vorse Raider comes to mind first.
But I think from Battle City on, Vorse Raider was his go-to, I need to beat down quick. And then from there it went, how can I top deck Soul Exchange and use my opponent's monsters to summon Obelisk?
Could Sagi the Dark Clown count as a secondary ace for Kaiba? He was used a lot in the early days.
Dude, he even used Sagi in Dark Side of Dimensions. He never stopped. From the first duel, after he's beaten Yugi's grandpa, Sagi's in that duel. That is the most consistent monster in Kaiba's deck.
He had a thing for Sagi for so long.
The craziest thing is, like, Kaiba really loves his attack points. He's like, you're using that weak monster? Pathetic. Here's my 600 attack clown.
Though to be fair, he needed Sagi to be weak to use his Crush Card virus strategy.
Truly, Kaiba's secondary monster is also Blue Eyes, as when is he not using another Blue Eyes monster? In Dark Side Dimensions, it's alternative White Dragon, or Chaos Max. Like, we all know that he just wants his secondary monster to be the same as his primary monster.
Wait, isn't this list alternative ace monster? Well, if it's Blue Eyes, then it's alternative Blue Eyes. That works.
You got me there.
Number 9, Black-Winged Dragon with Crow. Crow's default ace monster is a bit hard to pin down in the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime, since he didn't duel as much compared to Jack and Yusei, but he dueled enough to be the third duelist of Team 5Ds. For over half the series, Blackwing Armor Master was his ace, being the boss of his Blackwing archetype, half of which are birds and the other half are guys dressed as birds that are counted as birds, except Obsidian Joe. He's just a guy named Joe. Armor Master had a good boss monster effect for the time he came out, unable to be destroyed by battle and could reduce one of the opponent's monster's attack to 0. He even appeared alongside the signature monsters of other characters in the second ending theme of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, being the only one not based on a dragon, showing that Crow doesn't need to go with the norm and fits in perfectly fine. Then they gave Crow a dragon. After becoming a signer, he succumbed to the peer pressure and obtained Black-Winged Dragon in the second half of the series. And with this being a big dragon, it was clearly meant to take over as the new ace monster for Crow, even using Armor Master as his material in some episodes, but we don't know. Even though characters replaced their signature monsters a bunch in the various series, the dragon kinda felt underwhelming looking at his real life effect, so we just consider him as the secondary ace because of that. His effect blocks burn damage in exchange for lowering his own attack, and then he can raise his attack back to normal and lower one of the opponent's monster's attack by that same amount. The anime made this effect sound super epic, with the opponent being like, and now you lose 500 life points, and Crow's like, no, I can stop it. But in the actual card game, 500 life points is no big deal. Some decks pay half their life points on the regular.
Crow is so spectacular because he has by far the worst boss monster I have ever heard of. It is so bad. I hate Blackwing Dragon with a passion as someone who plays Blackwings passionately. Despite that, he manages to always win with it. And it makes no sense because by no stretch of the imagination should that card win any interaction with any other character.
According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a Blackwinged Dragon should be able to win. What I'm impressed by is they made Blackwing Dragon really cool in its first duel. They had like a burn infinite loop. Like, that was one of the craziest duels in 5Ds. I was legit impressed. Bad card, but like, they showed it off well.
My favorite thing about it is it's such a bad card, they somehow managed to make an even worse version for the manga. Behold, Blackfeather Dark Rage Dragon. When you take damage, mill the top 5 cards of your deck, and if there are monsters, it gains 400 attack! Not per monster, just 400. And then when Crow reappeared in Arc 5, they went, let's not give him a dragon and just have him use Winged Beast Synchros. And he only lost because Yugioh cheated, because he's the protagonist.
Anyway, his secondary ace, in my opinion, is Gale the Black Whirlwind. He has summoned it more than pretty much any other Blackwing in his deck, and it's what made me want to play Blackwings.
It's also worth noting that Blackwing Dragon retrains, no one really cared about them, but as soon as they retrained Armor Master, instant modern boss for the deck. It has the magical term unaffected by card effects, and yeah, that's a pretty good effect. Number 8, Super Heavy Samurai Big Ben K with Gongenzaka. Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 had a few characters that could fall into the friend category for this list, but of all of them, we had to go with the man Gongenzaka. When I was unsure if I was even going to watch Arc 5 however many years ago, Sam told me, if anything, I need to see the man Gongenzaka in action, and he was right. This guy steals the show whenever he's on screen. He's the bombastic synchro duelist who uses the Super Heavy Samurai archetype, which is a deck with no spells, no traps, and just big beefy samurai robots, and some monsters that act like equip spells. They have high defense and can attack while in defense mode using their defense points as their attack.
I love the Super Heavy Samurai archetype because they gave us a functional monster mash deck, because all the Super Heavy Samurais are, I attack in defense mode with my big beefy butt, and also if you play a single spell or trap, I will cry.
Same.
The advent of hand traps made Super Heavy Samurai such a violent deck. It was rogue for like 3 years because it dodged everything.
Similar to Crow, Gongenzaka had his ace early in the series and then got a new monster meant to take the place of his ace. In this case, the synchro monster Super Heavy Samurai Warlord Susanoo. However, Gongenzaka got this card much earlier than Crow got Black-Winged Dragon, so this new ace stuck for me and it made sense to downgrade Ben K to his number 2. Still, Ben K was a powerhouse of a number 2.
Big Ben K has 3,500 fake attack. Wow. This thing is a hard counter to Blue Eyes White Dragon. Suck it, Kaiba.
Is he a hockey player?
He's a samurai.
I know, but look at his shoes.
Those are his feet. He's a robot.
You know what? I'm going to defend Judgment Meter here. What is the difference between a samurai and a hockey player?
No, doesn't he look like a goalie?
He's so good at hockey, he dual wields a hockey stick. It splits in two. It handles 2 pucks at once.
It looks like that's what he's doing. I've watched a lot of Olympics, okay, guys?
For when hockey has its multi-ball phase, you need the double stick.
Ice hockey. Well, I guess it doesn't matter to you. You know what?
He's he's got skates. He's roller hockey. His feet have wheels on them.
Number 7, Gagaga Magician with Yuma. When I saw Gagaga Magician used for the first time, I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy. He's clearly based on the OG Ace Dark Magician. And then Yuma got Utopia, and I was like, alright, all signature monsters in the anime for the main character do have 2,500 attack points. But still, Gagaga Magician was used in nearly every Yuma duel, so he earns his spot of being the secondary ace, in part because he's a good Deus Ex Machina card. His effect lets you change his level anywhere between 1 and 8, so when Yuma gets a fancy new monster that he wants to Xyz summon, he can just have Gagaga Magician change his level, and boom bam, he has one of the materials easy.
Gaga Magician is actually unique among the wizard magician monsters like that, because Gagaga is the Japanese onomatopoeia for punching, so instead of casting magic, Gagaga Magician just decks you.
He also continued the Dark Magician parallels by having an apprentice, with Gagaga Girl being added in the middle of the first season, and she was pretty cool. Her effect works in conjunction with Gagaga Magician. She can match his level for an easy Xyz summon followed by an additional effect, where she can reduce a monster's attack to 0 if she was used in an Xyz summon with another Gagaga monster, usually the Magician, and I like how they showed that effect in the anime. She would type something real fast on her cell phone with the skull keychains, and it was always a nice looking sequence. Gagaga Girl had a lot of personality. I'm surprised that she wasn't more popular. When is she getting an upgrade with an extra ga in her name?
Friendship ended with Gagaga Magician. Gagaga Magician is my new best friend.
She's Dark Magician Girl, but not. Oh, and she has Miss Judge's skulls.
Judge Meter, would you like your very funny Gagaga Girl fact?
Yeah.
There's a monster in the manga called number 22 Franken. He's Frankenstein's monster. And part of his mega effect is he can't attack female monsters because Frankenstein's monster wanted a wife. And when he tries to give Gagaga Girl a flower, all she does is hold up her smartphone so he can see how ugly he is, so he starts crying.
That's so sad.
But that's my boy Zombie Steen.
Number 6, DDD Doom King Armageddon with Reiji. Doom King's pretty cool. He's got that boss monster feel, but he isn't really good in the real life card game. He gains attack of one of your destroyed monsters, but he can't attack directly. It's okay, there was no restriction in the anime. You can destroy your own monsters to boost him, but in the end, he's just a big guy who does big smashing. It's basically a 3-way tie between the Fusion Genghis, the Synchro Alexander, and the Xyz Caesar for the signature monster spot of his DDD deck.
So here's my favorite fact about Reiji's deck. This monster, DDD Doom King Armageddon, is supposed to be his ace as the Kaiba stand. It's got the 3000 attack, the 8 stars. He's got 3 copies in his deck. He does not use them. He uses Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters to show off his deck. The funniest thing about Reiji is his voice actor is in such demand that he wasn't there to record most of the series. So Reiji has like 6 duels, and every single time he has a completely different DDD lineup.
I like how DDDs are all like historical figures, but like really angry. You've got your Caesar, you've got your Alexander, you've got your Genghis, your Siegfried, your Gilgamesh, and then there's Big Face Man over here.
He also has upgrades that are different extra deck methods, and they just add super and a color. So DDD Super Doom King Purple Armageddon, DDD Super Doom King Bright Armageddon, and the Dark King Armageddon. And they grow arms as a result.
What's the difference between D, DD, DDD? How many Ds? There's a lot of Ds. I don't know the difference between any of them. I've always been too afraid to ask in Duel Links, and they just keep beating me in OTKs.
The bigger ones are DDD, and the smaller ones are DD.
I see. They work like bra sizes.
And DD with the periods just stand for different dimension and are unrelated to Reiji's archetype because they don't have the slashes, and a single D is for Destiny hero and also unrelated.
And then there's one D, 4 Ds.
Oh, and then it evolves into 5Ds. I get it.
Number 5, Junk Warrior with Yusei. Even though Yusei's ace monster is Stardust Dragon, you tend to forget he didn't have it for most of the first arc in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Between getting it stolen, being in prison, and ordering some milk, he had no way to summon the dragon for about 20 episodes. However, he always had a dependable backup with Junk Warrior. From the beginning, we know Yusei could always rely on summoning Junk Synchron and Speed Warrior to bring out Junk Warrior, and sometimes Quillbolt Hedgehog was involved, or Sonic Chick. We all get hype for Sonic Chick.
No, it's a baby little chickadee.
I love Sonic Chick. That is one of my favorite cards ever.
My favorite instance of Sonic Chick is when Yusei used it to block a lockdown strategy by Jack Atlas in the final duel of 5Ds.
Since Yusei was super respectful of his cards, Junk Warrior always got a big introduction. Well, every Synchro Monster got a big introduction, because every character has to monologue before they summon them.
By the heart of my soul, the whole business of my being, I summon from my eyeball, my friend, my lover, Stardust Dragon. Shine like the sun of the...
See, I do those same things, but I accidentally use a level 3 tuner and a level 4 non-tuner because I'm bad at math.
Stardust Dragon.
Well, there is Stardust Rising Dragon.
Shouldn't we have made all those jokes about Junk Warrior and not Stardust Dragon?
Well, Stardust is probably his secondary monster because everyone knows Yusei's real ace is his bike.
I mean, his bike is literally a Synchro Monster now, so you could make that argument. Anyway, back to Junk Warrior. Junk Warrior gains the attack of all level 2 monsters on your side of the field, which ties in that you would always need a level 2 monster to use with Junk Synchron to bring out the warrior. It's not a bad effect if you have a level 2 focused deck. Imagine getting a bunch of clown zombies on the field with this guy. Everyone loves Clown Zombie, or just play Sprite. Number 4, Firewall Dragon with Yusaku, aka Playmaker. Everything about Firewall Dragon screams ace monster for a protagonist. He has the traditional 2500 attack points, he was obtained in a special way before he was used, he was even the cover card on a box set. However, real life got in the way, and it's pretty funny why he was downgraded from the ace monster to just being the number 2 guy.
He summons it in the duel against Varus, and it's like this big reveal. This is like when Yusei summoned Stardust Dragon for the first time. It's like when Yugi finally got Dark Magician Girl. It was such a big deal, and then it was banned in the OCG and was never allowed to come back.
Yup, that's my favorite fact, because anime ban list must match the real world ban list.
So I agree that this is his secondary ace. It's just the OCG did not.
It was supposed to be his primary, but they made it too good, and it now has the distinction of being the first protagonist ace monster to ever be banned. It also came back with a complete errata that made it a lot worse, but it's still just as good, but with cyber stacks only.
It just seems weird with how often the anime broke rules in the older series that now they wanted to make this fantastical sci-fi world only realistic with its card game rules. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX used Pot of Greed all the time, despite that getting banned in real life.
Have you seen Jaden's games? That dude pot of greeds like 5 times a turn. Yo, Don's a Luke pot of greeds. What the heck?
You say that, but you watch. Go back to the GX anime. In 2005, when that ban list came out, Pot of Greed vanished from every single deck.
Oh my god, Sam's right. The last time Pot of Greed was used in GX was in the Chaz vs. Blair duel at the end of Season 2. They never used it in the last 2 seasons after it was banned in real life. I never noticed that.
So my issue with Firewall Dragon is that he doesn't actually protect your home network from anything. If you were to stick him inside of your router, all you would do would be create a fire hazard. If anything, it leaves you more vulnerable to viruses. And this is just straight up misleading information coming from Firewall Dragon.
Number 3, Karibo and Dark Magician Girl with Yugi. It was hard to pick just one here. It's the original main character, so of course he has a lot of iconic cards, but these two stuck out the most. Yes, even more than the God card. On one hand, you have Karibo, who Yugi used to get out of a lot of tight spots from the beginning, and it found ways to remain relevant after most of the other Duelist Kingdom monsters became defunct. But on the other hand, we have the Dark Magician Girl, who is basically the definition of the number 2, being the apprentice to the main signature monster, Dark Magician. So let's go over the resume of each one to show why they're equally deserving of the secondary ace spot. Kuriboh was used to multiply and explode to protect Yugi's other monsters against Kaiba in the rematch, and Pegasus was used in the Blackluster Soldier ritual against Mai, then was multiplied again in the tag duel with Kaiba, was used as bait to redirect Yami Bakura's Dark Spirit, and was used in the virtual world duels a few times, including as Yugi's deck master by accident when they were really pushing the cute Kuriboh narrative.
Aww, he's a fuzzy little snerd ball.
Snerd ball!
The kids who I nanny for, they called Dust Bunny snerds.
That is not a snerd, unless snerd means demon boy.
It's a little demon boy.
Oh.
Wait, this is cute?
Adorable.
This looks like one of those sci-fi monsters that the hero goes up to and he's like, oh, this is pretty cute, and then he like bites off a background character's hand.
Not everything is tribbles.
To be fair, didn't it try to attack Yugi after he solved the Millennium Puzzle in the Pyramid of Light movie, and have that feral-looking alternate artwork?
Oh, I like the other one.
It's Goku. This proves that he has arms.
Can we just assume that was Wretched Ghost of the Attic?
No, I want the baby.
As for the Dark Magician Girl, did Yugi ever stop using her after he premiered her in the Arcana duel?
Yeah, I love how Dark Magician Girl just showed up, and immediately everyone was like, I want the girl. I want the girl. Don't care about the wizard. I want the girl. They put her on all the merch. They put her in almost every single duel from her debut to the end of the series she was in, that Yugi dueled in.
Remember when she could just randomly talk in Dark Side of Dimensions? Because that's just a thing that she does.
I think I blocked that from my memory.
Well, she already spoke before that as a deck master and a dual spirit in the Waking the Dragons arc.
She also spoke as a Cyrus girlfriend in GX.
Oh, geez.
I also forgot to mention that she was sometimes off-model in her first anime appearance. Her eyes were much bigger than they should have been. Both of them eventually got deck strategies based around them in the anime, showing their high-ranking status in Yugi's deck. Yugi had the Kuriboh brothers deck in the Waking the Dragons arc, along with a version of Kuriboh being in every major Yu-Gi-Oh series to show that he's truly the best companion. Link Kuriboh is still a modern meta staple. Wretched Ghost of the Attic, though, I'm watching you. For Dark Magician Girl in the Dark Side of Dimensions movie, Yugi used the Food Magician Girls whose first letters of their names spell black in reference to her Japanese name, Black Magician Girl.
My favorite line in Dark Side of Dimensions is Yugi summons Apple Magician Girl, and Kaiba, in a pure, violent rage, and even zooms in on his iris trembling, you fight me with fruit?
As long as it works.
That being said, that was regular Yugi using her deck, while every other time her and Kuriboh were used in the past, it was the Pharaoh using Yugi's body. So technically, we should be saying that these are Yami Yugi's secondary signature monsters. What would little Yugi's secondary signature monster even be? Silent Magician? The Gadgets?
The Silent Magician. Dark Magician is silent. That's redundant.
No, he starts talking when Silent Magician gets introduced. So he has multiples on a technicality because Yugi had like 3 duels to himself, including filler. And 2 of those times, he used the same deck he always uses. But when he had to use his own deck to symbolize he grew up, he went, you know what I'm going to use? Toys and aging. And then also this gigantic dragon that has the coolest animation in Duel Monsters with Gandora, Giga Ray of Destruction. And then he kills Akora.
I just think it's funny that Yugi Muto is the secondary ace monster in his own body, because everyone prefers Yami.
Yugi also gets Silent Swordsman, which also seems to be more of his secondary ace, because he used it first to pull off his God Killer Gambit. Oh yeah, Valkyria is another good choice.
Isn't that just the Buster Blader when he doesn't talk? Yugi just takes Yami's decks and duct tapes their mouth shut.
Well, that's why Buster Blader doesn't have a mouth on his helmet. It's just eye sockets.
What about Curse of Dragon, a wicked dragon that taps into dark forces to execute a powerful attack?
What is the Curse of Dragon? Is it the dragon, or is it a curse?
We will never know, because even his Japanese name is just Curse of Dragon.
Like, if it was a cursed dragon or cursed dragon, then yeah. Or if it was like a spell card that turns something into a dragon, but it's just a bow.
It's a 1 tribute 2000 attack monster. That is the curse.
Well, Curse of Dragon does appear more than some of Yugi's other better monsters, like even Blackluster Soldier, who only seemed like he appeared more because he got so many retrains and upgrades.
I like how this falls into the category of monsters that gets retrained, but only by adding more more things to the end of it, like a Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, Super Soldier, Envoy of Evening Twilight.
It's like his PhD. He gets letters after his name.
BLS, PhD, SUV, MD, NSFW, NTSF, SUV, NCIS, CSI, Los Angeles, Miami.
Gotta throw the phrase evening twilight in there.
Oh, true. Of the Evening Twilight Sun, man.
Number 2, Elemental Hero Flame Wingman with Jaden, or Judai to not use the dub name. The downfall of Flame Wingman was always kinda sad to me, even though it made sense why he was moved to being Jaden's number 2 in the anime. In the first season, he was the de facto ace monster of Jaden. There was no Neos, no Neospatians, and this season was all about the elemental heroes and their different combinations of fusions. There were so many combos you could do, between fusing Blade Edge with Wildheart, with Avion, with Bubbleman, with Clayman, with Sparkman, the list goes on. But there was one constant. Nearly every episode, it was time for Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, fusing Jaden's 2 potentially favorite main deck elemental heroes, Avion and Bursinitrex. Makes sense, a Birdman and a Fire Lady create a Birdman with a dragon head arm? Well, at least the fact that it shoots fire makes sense. The point is, Jaden used to love this guy. His effect inflicts damage to the opponent's life points equal to the attack points of a monster he destroys, which was a pretty good effect for when it came out. Its main issue was it was attached to 2 weak normal monsters during a time when fusion substitutes weren't as common or were too good that they had to be banned, so it was fun to look at but not to eat. But once the second season of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX came, Wingman's usage plummeted. Being the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Spin-off, it seems they didn't quite have the pattern set right away where the protagonist's ace monster would have 2,500 attack points. The second season fixed this by introducing elemental hero Neos as the new ace, and unfortunately for Wingman, it made sense. Besides that magical attack number, with Neos being a normal monster that could fuse with a bunch of other monsters, it meant that he could be fused with different outcomes every time, rather than relying on Jaden drawing or searching the same normal monsters to do the same fusion every episode, even if he was cool. Granted, they could have just done the Shining Flare Wingman strategy where he kept fusing with other monsters, but I guess the writers didn't want to do that. Wingman still appeared often in the second season, just not as much as Neos. It's the third season when he really hit the decline. Neos is cool, but if he never showed up, it would be an easy number 1 for Wingman, and we'd be debating which of the many other hero fusions is the number 2 for Jaden, or maybe one of the normal hero monsters. I'd vote for Avian since he's on the official Yu-Gi-Oh! GX swim trunks, but it's up for interpretation.
I would say that Jaden's true secondary ace monster would be the only card that he gave a motorcycle to, and that would be Elemental Hero Clayman.
It wasn't a motorcycle, it was an ATV. It was a dragster.
Oh, yep, that's a go-kart, all right.
Oh, it was a go-kart? I rest my case. It's still cool.
Well, where did he get the rockets?
From the mud. It came from the mud.
I can't. Clayman, I can't.
I don't know if I'd go so far as to call him the secondary ace, but I agree, Clayman is pretty cool. Well, with the monsters of 3 characters per each of the 6 series being eligible for this list, we have 8 left over, so instead of cramming them into an honorable mention segment, we'll just cover the missing protagonists, rivals, and friends in a part 2 someday, and we'll throw in a few extra characters in the series that have a few characters that could qualify as the best friend or rival to make it an even 10. But first, we gotta finish this list. For number 1, we chose the monsters of a character who rarely used his ace monster in hindsight, and it was a shocking revelation to us. Well, not that shocking, but we were mildly surprised. It was like a 7-way tie on who his other signature monster was, and we love indecision here. Number 1, Flame Swordsman, Gearfried, the Iron Knight, and Time Wizard, among others, with Joey. Anyone who knows Yu-Gi-Oh! Associates the Red Eyes Black Dragon with Joey. It's his biggest monster, it has all the fusions, it's on all his promo material, and it got way more support than the other monsters that introduced this segment. But how often did Joey use his so-called ace? He won the dragon in his second Duelist Kingdom duel, and used it in every duel after that in Duelist Kingdom, where there were usually one of 2 results. It either had a single moment of triumph and was immediately destroyed after that, or it had success because it had help from another duelist, like when Joey fused it with Yugi's Summoned Skull, or when it was turned into a machine with Keith's Metamorph. And after that, Joey Joey never used it again in canon, basically. He lost it against the Rare Hunter before Battle City started, and spent the entire season using other cards because he wanted to win it back after Yugi got it from the Hunter. And yeah, that was basically it for Red Eyes in the original series, just looking at the manga. The only thing that made it seem like Joey used Red Eyes more was the Waking the Dragons filler. However, in the Virtual World filler, he was still off the Red Eyes, but his original ace, Flame Swordsman, made a comeback, so that was neat. Because Flame Swordsman was his deck master in that season, I've generally thought of him being the secondary ace, but there are probably better monsters to put in that spot. Though I do like how his retrained Blue Flame Swordsman can give his attack points to other monsters, referencing regular Flame Swordsman's deck master effect.
Like you said, MrTopTenList, Joey got Red Eyes in the duel with Rex Raptor, and then summoned it in every Duelist Kingdom duel, and then never again. Which means that Red Eyes had less appearances than Flame Swordsman, who also never appeared after Duelist Kingdom. Therefore, Joey's true ace monster is Gearfried the Iron Knight. The only ace monster Joey owns, truthfully and sincerely, is Gearfried.
We also can't forget about Time Wizard, his second rarest card according to Battle City rules. I spoke about how he was used in my Time Manipulator video, but to summarize, Time Wizard had diminishing returns. His anime power was to fast forward the field 1,000 years into the future if you spun it right on a roulette, but it only worked the first 2 times Joey did it. The 3rd time he lost the roulette, the 4th time Keith had a time machine trap of his own to undo it, and the 5th time he accidentally powered up Yugi's Dark Magician. And then Time Wizard was past his prime by Battle City. Against Jinzo, he was useless because time means nothing to Jinzo, and Kaiba had a trap to dodge the effect.
My favorite thing about Time Wizard's staff in the anime is when you look at it, for no reason other than to spook you, is the skull is a bigger wedge than the time machine. Because 2 time machines next to each other line up to equal the skull. It's just they split it up to make it look like, oh, the skull is bigger, it's scarier, it's more dangerous. And then it only really matters once.
I just like how Time Wizard only sometimes has a mustache. Depending on what time it is, it could be Angry Eyes.
Wait, what if Time Wizard is Joey's ace card? He had it since the beginning, it matches the gambling theme, it's powerful, it like disintegrates monsters, except when Yugi's like, ha, I like being old.
And he got it from Yugi.
Oh wait, no, he just keeps stealing stuff then.
Speaking of other aces he got from other people, Jinzo, his most meta threat.
So I got a theory about Joey. So like, Joey's thing isn't really that he has an ace monster, it's that he takes everyone else's ace. Red Eyes is something he took, Jinzo's something he took, Legendary Fisherman, all of his notable stuff is like stolen from other duelists. His secondary ace monster is your ace monster.
You're not wrong.
And shoutouts to Swordsman of Landstar, who wasn't his secondary ace, but he sure used him like one. Did he really need to add another low-level normal monster after all the other ones that he had in Duelist Kingdom?
I hate Swordsman of Landstar. I want to pound his cheeks until they're flat and I grill them up.
I want to rephrase that.
I want to punch his face until it's flat and grill it up like a slice of potato.
Why do you hate him so much?
He's got his own face on his shield, and he's got 500 attack, and Joey used him to gamble constantly because Graceful Dice and Skull Dice had a restriction that could only be applied to 500 attack point or lower monsters.
Oh my goodness, he's like Jerry Beans Man.
Yeah, except without the Jerry or the beans. He's just the man.
They technically faced off once in card art form.
This town ain't big enough for the 2 of us.
Oh no, who won?
Jerry Beans Man.
I would hope Jerry Beans, man.
So with a band of misfit monsters that all combine into one legendary team of ace monsters to fill in when Red Eyes is away, Gearfried, Time Wizard, and company take the number 1 spot for these number 2s. Now, what did you think? Were all these secondary aces just as good as the number 1s, or did some of them trail other monsters in the decks? Or maybe they deserve to be called the de facto signature monster? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.